You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast for another IPL weekend wrap-up and reaction show. We've got games featuring Virat Kohli, Jos Buttler, Rohit Sharma, Romario Shepherd, Rashid Khan, Shubman Gill, Ravi Bishnoi and many other exciting cricketers. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Ross Legg. How are you doing, Ross? Are you excited to talk IPL?
I'm unbelievably excited because there's not too many things in life I get right, but some of the things that have come very true this weekend, in everybody's view, we have been saying for an awful long time. And it's nice when all we get for weeks and weeks at the start of the IPL is that we're wrong. And then ultimately we are right. So, I quite like sitting on my high horse, and I will be doing so all of this show.
I'm sure our listeners can't wait to be smugly disregarded for an hour on this episode. Although some of them might agree with you, Ross. I can't think why that would be, but maybe there are some people here, like big time Ross stands, who are like, yes, finally we get Ross. Full guns. Arrogance to the max. A head so big he can't fit in his window.
If you're a Ross Legg stan, leave a comment in the YouTube comments, and I'll respond.
Yeah, and we've got Dan Weston. Dan, how are you doing? You having a good weekend?
I'm good. Not as chirpy as Ross after Rajasthan's fourth win in a row. But yeah, I'm doing all right. Enjoyed the games today to a varying extent, and enjoyed yesterday's as well.
Yeah, I'm back on the Lucknow Super Giants hype train. I found my old shirt, and I'm
just about fits.
Pride. Well, you know, I put on a bit of. I've been pumping some iron, Ross. So there's a few kilos more muscle around the old shoulders, and that's probably what you're seeing. That is probably what you're seeing right there. Before we get into the podcast, I do this on every episode. I'm going to remind everyone to like and subscribe, especially if you're watching on YouTube. Let's get some good interactions there. We've had a real good charge on the subscriber front there, and we're only 150, something like that, short of, I think, 16,000, 17 of a subscriber landmark. I can't remember which one. And so we want 150 more people to subscribe. So do that. Let's get into some cricket. We're going to start with this afternoon's game. Ross, you can summarise this. There wasn't. It was a bit of a damp squib in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was by two teams that I think. Dan, you can describe what you think about them in a minute, but sometimes they don't really set your imagination on fire, really, these two. But Lucknow have shown themselves to be adaptable. They've got a bit of a game plan, and they also get to carry around KL Rahul, don't they, with his fantastic match-winning innings today of 33 or 31 balls. But what really happened here was Umesh Yadav turned up, did pretty well, removed Cock and Padakal early on, and then there was a nice little rebuild, just a serene bit of kind of ODI cricket, which was quite exciting for nobody. And then what you ended up seeing was a pretty middling score on quite a dull pitch, really. It was all rather sedate, and it was only kind of Purad at the end hitting a couple of sixes that propelled them up to kind of what would be a competitive total against most teams. And then the Gujarat Titans just couldn't really get going, and just as they were like building a bit of partnerships, they lost wickets, and then they lost a cluster of wickets. And these weren't because people were bowling brilliantly. They were absolute gifts. They were some of the worst batting we've seen in the IPL this year. But if you look down Gujarat's batting lineup, it doesn't inspire anybody with confidence. Even like the parents of all the players in this team looking at that lineup, you're just like, this is just dreadful. You had a guy, Dan, what was the guy's average batting at 6 today?
Darshan Nalkande. So he had a T20 average of 7.64 before today's game. He boosted it with his 12 off 11 balls.
Yeah, but they've already got Vijay Shankar in that side, so they're not allowed to have another joke in the side, and unfortunately, that's what they decided to do.
It's a keeper for his debut who strikes at averages 15, just over 15, and strikes at 119 for Karnataka off like 28 games in 6 years.
And this, sometimes I like what the Ahmedabad boys do, but there's games like this where I'm just like, are they just a little bit lucky? And is their luck kind of running out now? Because they were kind of the clutch side and pulled things out of nowhere, but they look pretty meek without the David Millers and the Hardik Pandyas of the world in their lineup. And it was very surprising to say today not to see kind of Matt Wade play if they were going to not have Ridham and Saha in the 11. So yeah, ultimately a pretty poor game, but Lucknow kind of eased home really, and there was the first fifer of the tournament by Yash Thakur, which well done him.
Well, let's talk about some of the things that Lucknow Super Giants did right. Dan, Marcus Stoinis, 58 of 43. Not too bad in the context of the game. While it was happening, I was a little bit like, what's going on here? But perhaps this was one where Lucknow got the measure of the pitch early, posted a score that was going to be quite difficult to chase down, and set up a relatively easy win. What do you think?
I think there's a few ways to look at it. You never really know. Like 163 for 5 total. You never really know what to think of it. There's not really a middle ground. It's either a horrible pitch and you've done well to kind of put a score on the board, or you've wasted a ton of resources. I'm not really convinced. I don't know about either of them, but Stoinis was the only player who really, apart from Puran at the end, looked in any comfort on this pitch at all, and it ended up probably being pretty much a match-winning knock in the end. After the I don't know what we call it, the platform set by KL Rahul with his 33 off of 31 balls. Now they won by 33 runs. KL Rahul scored 33 runs. It is 31 balls.
Match winning. The literal definition. You've defined match winning there. You've said how much the match was won by, and then you found the guy who delivered the win, Dan.
Well, it makes me laugh, and bear with me on this one, this little anecdote, because you'll see what the relevance it has in the end. And basically, like, my mum has this like incredible ability to negotiate discounts with businesses, right? But she honestly, it's like it's to the point of embarrassing, right? How necky she is, right? And the problem is that when she gets she makes some outrageous diva-ish demand and actually gets it, she becomes emboldened and actually wants to do it even more. And I think that's what's going to happen with KL Rahul here after he's 33 off 31 and then winning by 33 runs. He's going to be emboldened and he's going to double down on this strike rates don't matter mentality.
Well, Ross, they don't matter if you've got Yash Thakur in your locker, do they? What a great game for him. He's not really played that much IPL. I think this was only his 12th appearance. Took a 4 for 37 last year and a 5 for 30 here. Can be a bit leaky, but is there another gem at Lucknow Super Giants that's been sort of hiding under the radar here?
Potentially. I think he's picked up some okay wickets, but the Titans were just not at the races today, like at all. But he comes away with the scouts of Shubman Gill, who's going to be kind of a pretty mainstay in India's setup for the next decade. Tawatia, as we know, has caused mayhem, and everyone watching it today were just like, there's like 40 runs off of kind of 12 balls here. They're not going to do that. But Tawatia's at the crease and anything could happen. But he ultimately bowled okay. I think there was a couple of more gifts from some of the teamers they were hitting out. But this game, I'm going to say it, this was the worst game of the IPL so far.
Ooh, that's strong. That is a strong... I mean, I'm not going to necessarily dispute it. It wasn't amazing. I don't know 9 minutes into a podcast whether you should be brazenly slagging off the thing that we're supposed to be excited about, hyping up, and getting involved with, but I mean, like, you might, objectively speaking, be right there. I'll tell you what is interesting though, Dan. We talked about Lucknow. They play pretty well. I'm on board the hype train. I'm worried about Mayank Yadav. Apparently came off with a side strain. I'm not sure how they diagnosed that so quickly, but he wasn't bowling quick today, and he wasn't bowling accurately today, and he did only bowl 1 over today. So something was obviously not right there. I'm on the Lucknow train. assuming he isn't ruled out for the tournament. Dan, I'm getting off the Gujarat train. This is 2 games in a row where they've played pretty abysmal cricket. They've played Williamson twice in a row. I mean, like, what's particularly weird here is that their wicketkeeper, Riddiman Saha, is out injured. You need a guy who can open the batting, maybe attack a little bit and do some wicket keeping. You've got Matt Wade on the bench, and instead you go for Williamson and this guy who, you know, basically nobody's ever heard of, B.R. Sharat. And he might be brilliant. Like, occasionally we do see guys who just sort of turn up and do amazing things. 2 or 5. 2 or 5 suggests that he isn't. What's going on?
15. He's not brilliant.
So what are they doing? Why are they doing this?
Obviously, we're not privy to their decision-making processes, but look, it's inexplicable, really, isn't it? I mean, either they see something in the current version of Williamson that no one else does, or they've made massive mistakes. There's no middle ground again. And having a number 6 who averages 7 in T20 cricket, as well as a guy who's averaging 15 in domestic cricket for one of the highest scoring teams in domestic cricket, is like, I don't even know where to start. It was such a weird team composition here. And, you know, you look at, we'll talk about Delhi and MI game later, but when you actually look at these teams and you think, how on earth have you come up with this 11 or 12? Like, seriously, like, these are people who have worked in cricket and get paid a lot of money. How do they actually justify these teams? How can you actually look at this and say, oh yeah, that's a team with really high expectation to do well today, and there was no one else better on the bench? Because there clearly was. And
they didn't need to do it either, right? They've got Syke Ishall was not even in the squad, so it wasn't even an option to be on the bench, right? Syke Ishall, don't go wrong, Noor Ahmed, he's a really good player. He is a really good player.
Absolutely, Jet.
Yeah, but there is a point here where you just like, do you need to be playing? Because if you're going to play Spencer Johnson, you're going to play Noor Ahmed, and you're just like, do you know what? We need to balance it out. Rashid Khan is the first name on the team sheet anyway. But actually, if you know Riddiman Saha's out, you know David Miller's out, then surely you need some intent from one of your overseas batters to be in that team.
I don't really see the point of like them leave. They're better off playing the Cycle Shore and playing 3 spinners than they are playing Nalkande, who's done basically nothing in his entire IPL career. So I don't understand. Actually, Cycle Shore's probably a better batter than him as well.
Yeah. So not good from Gujarat. We've seen these teams for a few games now. Like I said, I'm on the Lucknow Super Giants hype train. They're going all the way. They're going to smash Rajasthan 100-0 in the final, Ross. Sorry to break it to you. Can we get an oil check on Gujarat? We liked them at first, Ross. Where do you stand on them now?
I'm not really sure what they're doing. It's almost like they're losing on purpose, the Titans, at the moment, which is a bit, which is a bit worrying. But Dan, I think you said it on the last show you were on with us, was around that one injury shouldn't absolutely derail a team. You should have enough around your team. And David Miller is a loss, right, to this team. But there's a little bit here where the whole thing just feels a bit off, and there's players as I said in this lineup just are really not inspiring any confidence in me whatsoever. So unless they again make some changes, and we spoke on the last podcast that some of the other teams need to make changes, like Mumbai Indians, Delhi Capitals, etc. They've done some of those things. So yeah, I'm not feeling too hot. However, what I do like is Shubman Gill. I know that he's had a bit of a bad innings today, but I just like him. I just like him. So all is not lost. And yeah, I like it as a vibes.
You like the guy who got nearly 900 runs in the IPL last year.
There's a little bit about me that him and Sai Sudarshan, that there's something to work with there.
Yeah, cool. I think we'll put this one in the books. We've got
one more thing.
Go on then.
Lucknow. There is some really good hair in Lucknow. I'm not sure if they've all got like a bit of an agreement to not get their hair cut until they win the IPL or something like that. But KL Rahul's got big old long locks. Pandya's done it. Bishnoi looks like he's straight out of a Bollywood film. Like he looks like he's getting his hair done perfectly every single game. So I wonder if you know what's going on in the Lucknow dressing room, I want to know. Siddharth as well. Yep, absolutely. So I'm liking their style.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to say, what a catch from Bishnoi.
Oh my word!
Catch. What an insane catch!
Wasted
on
Williams. I think it makes it look better than it is. I'm going to say.
Really?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of. If you watch it again, like it's a good catch, don't get me wrong, but it's coming to about 5 miles an hour. It is like he could do whatever he likes, and he puts his little feet up underneath his legs to make it look better. He's like you're playing you're a goalkeeper in the back garden, being just like, I'm going to do like an old school Yurtsy Dudek dive. That feels like what Bishnoi has done today. I think Crick Crazy Johns, who says this is the greatest IPL catch ever on his Twitter, bought into the hype a little bit too much.
Is that true? Is that Johns went big? I mean, Johns hasn't seen anything that's happened involving an India player that wasn't the greatest thing that's ever happened on a cricket pitch. So we maybe need to take that with a pinch of salt, Ross. But yeah, it is what it is. Maybe he's made a right call that time. Lads, we're going to take a break and then we're going to come back. We'll do the morning game. Mumbai Indians. They're finally off the mark. They're heading in the right direction. And Delhi, well. Yeah, we'll talk about that after the break.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Cricket Podcast, where we are talking IPL. We're going to move to the morning game from today, Sunday. Or yesterday if you're listening on Monday, or 2 days ago if you're listening on Tuesday, and so on. We'll be talking Mumbai v Delhi. As I said just before the break, Mumbai, they're off the mark. And in some style, Ross, do you want to do a summary of this one, or do you want me to make it up on the spot?
Let me go. Let me do it, because what I liked about this was that we actually saw some changes, guys. We talked about it in the last show that both of these teams, for some reason, were not playing their best 11s, and they couldn't seem to get the balance right of their overseas players. And on this occasion, it was, I don't know, encouraging would be my term. And I think if you look at what both of these teams have done so far in the IPL, which was fuck all, it was quite good to actually see them play some proper cricket. And what I particularly enjoyed was the carnage at the Wankhede. Like, it was brilliant. There was so many runs that were produced. You saw some people rolling back the ears. Rohit Sharma straight out of the blocks. Great to see Ishan Kishan score some runs. Obviously, the Lord and Saviour that is Suryakumar Yadav getting a second ball duck was brilliant to see. That is excellent and completely in keeping with what is happening to Mumbai Indians this season. Hardik Pandya then has a kind of a KL Rahul, Virat Kohli inspired innings, and despite his best efforts, you saw Tim David and Romario Shepherd cause mayhem towards the end. I think it was 51 runs scored off the last 2 overs. Shepherd smashed 30, 32 off the last over. It was brilliant hitting. And to watch someone like Anrich Nortje record figures of 2 for 65 off of his 4 overs, you're just like, this is fantastic. And then Delhi Capitals were just like, we're going to have to give this a really good go. Prithvi Shaw back in the side and has looked fantastic since he come back in. Always going to be troubled by the brilliant kind of Jasprit Bumrah in this lineup, but they started off okay. Tristan Stubbs with 71 off 25 balls. A couple of years ago, when Tristan Stubbs was in the same Mumbai team as Dewald Brevis, there was a bit of a question mark of who was going to break out first, who was actually going to kind of step up and actually produce some fantastic innings. Dewald Brevis has not done that just yet, but Tristan Stubbs in the last 2-3 games has been fantastic. But ultimately, when Rishabh Pant was out, they didn't kind of run out of batting partners, really. And it kind of came to a gradual end where if you had bet on Gerald Kurtzia being the purple cap winner this year, you've just had a nice boost with the 3 wickets he was just gifted in the last kind of over or 2. So there we go. But yeah, it was ultimately a deserved win for Mumbai, but it was powered by the return of Romario Shepherd, and it was a nice addition. And we saw Mohammed Nabi play a game of cricket. So let's be happy.
Yeah, Dan, Mumbai, they're off the mark. It wasn't a completely flawless performance, but they've won pretty comfortably in the end. Do you think they've made the right changes, and should we expect a little bit of a charge up the table from the Mumbai Indians now?
Well, they definitely made the right changes. I tweeted that before the game even started. The fact that Shepherd coming in at the expense of a 17-year-old who's probably a good decision. Not just in terms of his bowling, but also his batting as well. Is a really welcome amount of depth that now he brings, and they had Nabi at 8, for example, as well, which is great depth. There's no need for Pius Chawla to bat at number 5 anymore, Ross, which I'm sure you'd be.
It's good. I heard that they did want to pick Mapaka, but because it was an afternoon game, the match clashed with his maths class, so he wasn't actually able to get the day off school. Carry on, Dan.
But what Ross, we talk about players that were sort of rolling back the years when you talk about Rohit Sharma, and I think Hardik Pandya's done that. He's channeled his inner Manish Pandey. The 39 off 33 balls, which was as sedate as it gets, and if it wasn't for that devastating hitting from Tim David and Romario Shepherd at the end, that probably would have been 180 rather than 234, which was. You really pushed the game out of Delhi's reach, and we'll talk about Delhi because it's just another disaster from them.
Ross, Romario Shepherd, he went absolutely mental on poor Anrich Nortje at the death in this game. Anrich Nortje, his final over in the last 4 matches, they've gone for 20, 25, 25 and 32, courtesy of Romario Shepherd today. That isn't good. What's happened there? What's happened with Romario and what's happened with Nortje?
Well, I think Romario's actually been playing pretty good cricket for the last 12 months or so, right? And I think there's been you always want a West Indies player in your team. That's what, if you listen to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, that's exactly what they'll tell you. And here, Romario Shepherd was sometimes when the ball is just in your slot and you have a good matchup, you make the most of it, right? And I think that it's encouraging to see, especially if you're a Mumbai's fan. I do think that Delhi should try one or two things a little bit differently. If they see something is continuously not working, maybe try just something else. And I know it's a pretty wild thing, but they do have more bowlers to choose from. Anrich Nortje can probably cause some other damage at different parts of the game. But the record so far this year has not been particularly brilliant. And the big thing for Delhi at the moment is that they're kind of being forced to play people like Lalit Yadav in that space and kind of give them kind of time because Kuldeep is out, Mukesh Kumar's out. But they did have Jai Richardson return. And Dan, I know you're a fan of Jai Richardson. Obviously, it's his first game back here. Didn't go brilliantly, going at 10s. But I think Delhi have got some decisions to take around what that looks like. But I think they probably need to just go, let's give someone else a go in that final over.
Dan, Delhi today, they had a guy who got 71 off 25 and a guy who got 66 off 40. So they've got 140 of the runs that they're chasing
in half
off 65 balls. But after Rishabh Pant, who's in at 5, dropped himself down the order a little bit for reasons unknown. Their batting basically ends. Is there anything they can actually do about this, or are they just riding the sledge of doom into, I don't know what they're riding it into, a heap of shit?
Should be the IPL Division 2, but it's not because they're not. You're not allowed to get relegated. I just don't understand the team construction. I've said this so many times before. I just don't get it. Basically, it's really, really, really shambolic. You've got an impact sub at who's batting at number 8 on his debut, who they spent 7.8 crore on, and he's batting below Akshar Patel and Lalit Yadav. So it shows that they've got no confidence in him at all. They've got 4 keepers, so there's no need for them moving to have got him to start with. There's a 19-year-old who's 1 year before a mega auction. But 1 year before a mega auction, you need to have a win now mentality. And there's no relationship in this structure between recruitment and selection and just general logic, basically. Abhishek Patel at number 3 has got to be one of the worst decisions when you're chasing 235. And I mean, it wasn't like Warner got us off to a flyer anyway. I mean, there were 22 off 22 balls when he got out. Chasing 235. Probably want your best batters like Stubbs and Pant to face as much of those balls as possible if you're going to have a chance. No. We'll pick some rookie who had one good innings and scored 41 off 31 balls, 5 balls, no sixes. And just so you know, just for clarity as well, if you're chasing 235 and you score 41 off 31 balls, your teammates plus extras need to strike at 218 to win as a collective. That is that is quite the arse.
And it becomes even more difficult when you are coming up against Jasprit Bumrah, who again today is just an absolute cheat code, isn't he? Like the guy is a freak. The Yorker to get
it's Bumrah, yeah.
Unless you're just not going to do it, right? And he comes away with figures of 2 for 22 off his 4. The searing Yorker to Prithvi was fantastic. I was a bit gutted that Prithvi Shaw didn't fall over. It was kind of just like, come on, mate, leg stumps come out of the ground. But the guy, we always don't mention him enough. It's one of those things. It's inevitable. He's brilliant.
Mumbai, they're obviously off the mark. They'll be happy with the win. They'll be happy with the way they batted. They'll be happy that Surya Kumar Yadav is back in the side, even if today it wasn't for him. They do still have some pretty big issues, though. Like Romario in for Mapaka, probably an upgrade, but he still went for 54. And in the spin department, they split 4 overs between Nabi and Chawla. Chawla this year, his economy is 11.5. He's taken 2 wickets at 57.5. Is this a season too far for Chawla, Ross?
Well, if you remember when we started the podcast, I referred to him as Donut Boy. And
then he was good last year.
He got released by whoever he was playing for. Then was good last year. Maybe he's just maybe he's like Mohammad Siraj. Maybe he has a good year, then a bad year, good year, then a bad year. Maybe that's it. But again, Mumbai don't ever seem to really rate spinners. Like it's just one of those things. They just over up and will. I am looking forward to the opportunity where Shreyas Gopal gets a run out because actually he surely bowl any worse than Pierce Chawla is at the moment. But we've seen his batting credentials, guys. Right, he was batting at 5, so buying into.
Yeah, Dan. Last thing on these two, we've seen them a few times now. Like Mumbai, they're finally off the mark. Mumbai have a bit of a history for starting slow. Yeah. Is there? I think we can write Delhi off. We don't need to talk about that. But for Mumbai, is there a chance now that we do see them go on a run of victories, or do you still think that they might struggle to catch the pack?
I think it's possible, but very unlikely at the moment. I think I said the other day it's like 2% chance or something like that. At the moment, they're 1 and 3. They've got a net run rate of -0.7, and that they could actually have to win 9 to qualify if their net run rate isn't positive, and that means they've got to win 8 out of their last 10 games. Now they've got RCB, as Navneet says in the chat, in the next game. I mean, that is the clash of the Titans. That's on Thursday, and whoever loses that is basically done. I don't think there's any real debate about that. So we've got it should be a relegation 6-pointer if teams are allowed to be relegated. So yeah, it's got to be a must-win game for both teams. And Nani also makes the point I was going to say as well, which is just remember that Chawla is a month younger than Virat Kohli, which no one actually realises that, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, so I just think Mumbai, it's a lot to ask. They kind of need. They don't need snookers yet, but it's not far off. They look like they've got somewhere close to their optimal team today, which definitely stands them in good stead. I think it's about they've got to if their bowling can turn up in a few games, Percy, Bumrah together, and the other ones don't go disastrously, they've got a chance. Hardick's bowling again was a bit
that's what I was going to say. It'd be nice to see Hardick bowl, wouldn't it? But
2 games, no bowling. Ross, any final points from you on this match before we take a break and move on to Kohli v Buttler?
no, I just wish Delhi would be a little bit less dreadful. So if you're a Delhi fan, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry too. Sorry, Delhi.
Yeah.
Be back in a second.
We're about to talk about RCB.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast. Before we talk about RCB and Rajasthan, which is the third and final game we're talking about this weekend, Ross, do we have any messages for the listeners?
Yes, we are sponsored by Serious Cricket. So if you want some new cricket equipment and you live in the UK, then go to seriouscricket.co.uk via our link. So we've got a link, it's in the show notes. Go to that and order yourself some new cricket gear. I was at a cricket net yesterday and I've broken my cricket bat. So
No.
2 weeks away from the new season, and I'm in the market for a new cricket bat. So yeah, I'll be using Serious Cricket and some new gloves probably as well. So get yourself over to Serious Cricket via our link and buy some stuff.
What bat are you thinking about?
I don't know, mate. I've got quite a nice love affair with my bat. Obviously, we were sponsored by Woodstock a few years ago, and it was part of the deal. And it's been a brilliant bat for me. But yeah, one hit too many. So I don't know what I'm going to go with next. I'm not an old school guy. I can't do a Duncan Fernley bat. I can't do that. So maybe I'll go for I'll go for a new breed. So if there's a new breed of bat manufacturers out there, maybe I'll give those a go.
I think you should get one of those. Like, is it Big Kahunas? Is that a Kookaburra bat?
What the Ricky Ponting bat? Did he have
yeah. It's just got a good name. It's got a good name, hasn't it? The Big Kahuna. Like, that's Anyway, look, let's move on to the cricket. Ross, I'll give you the honour. You've done the summaries very well on this episode, I will say, and you will get another chance here. RCB, they took on Rajasthan Royals. Can you tell us what happened?
I can, because Rajasthan Royals go into every single game with a pretty decent plan. And on this occasion, their plan was to just let Virat Kohli bat for as long as he likes. And on this occasion, that's all that they needed to do. There was just, I don't know, an air and grace. Like, he hit some brilliant shots, and he was majestic at the top of the order with the highest score of the competition of 113. And it was unfortunate for him that nobody else could hit any runs. Faf du Plessis kind of contributed, but wasn't really inspiring. Glenn Maxwell failed yet again. Cam Green came in below the new guy, who kind of was flung into the RCB lineup. Dinesh Karthik doesn't even get in, and you're just sitting there going, why are they only 3 wickets down after 20 overs? It was, pretty unacceptable, if I'm perfectly honest. There wasn't that intent. Kohli yet again slowing down in the middle overs, slowing even further down where he's going for his own century and the own personal milestone. The RCB makeup is just all wrong at the moment. It is kind of a team of individuals, and this game absolutely epitomised that. But Rajasthan Royals with the ball, they were okay. I think it wasn't their typical kind of penetrating approach. Obviously, last game Trent Boult kind of ripped out the top order, but on this occasion it was just quite sedate on that side. Jaiswal then fails yet again, and if we should have said he would be flop of the tournament. A lot of pressure going on Jaiswal's shoulders, and he failed. Jos Buttler hadn't done anything for probably about 10 IPL games across the last 2 seasons, and here he gave himself a bit of time, but was typical Joss, and he was brilliantly kind of enabled, wasn't supported, he was enabled by Sanju Samson. And Sanju Samson, I think this is now 3rd in 4 games that he's done very well with the bat. He's the unsung hero of kind of, I think, India cricket, if I'm perfectly honest. He should definitely be in that India side. But his intent and his approach enabled Jos Buttler to flourish into the flower that we know he is. And again, they got ahead of the rate, and it looked as if the RCB were just almost like infighting on the field. It was quite embarrassing, if I'm perfectly honest. And then Josh Buttler gets a nice little single to make sure he was on strike for the last over, and clubs a 6 when he was at 94 to win the game for them from the first ball. It was a nice moment for them. But RCB are in all kinds of bother after another abject performance.
Yeah, RCB now, they sit second bottom of the table, 1 win from 4 matches. I think we're probably looking at the point where we close the books on their season overall. However, Dan, Virat Kohli is well and truly in the orange cap race, isn't he? Right. Let's talk about the Kohli innings. And I'm gonna say it was quite a good one. I think if you get 117 runs, or 113 runs or 72 balls, you've probably done your job. And if the rest of the team only get 58 runs off the remaining 48 balls, or I think it's 59 or 48 balls, they probably haven't done their job. Do you agree or disagree, Dan?
These innings, I think, are really, really difficult to judge. I think it's very difficult to criticise someone who's got 100 in a T20 match, no matter what. However, I think that there's a few points that are worth chatting about. First of all, we mentioned Josh Buttler. Ross, you mentioned about him scoring a single off the last ball of the over and then hitting a 6 off the first one. Well, Jack's been sort of sourced some very interesting information about Virat Kohli's tendencies to take a single on the last ball of an over. I think that's probably at least part of the reason as to how he managed to face 60% of the balls for RCB in this innings, which is he's going to be influencing that innings to extreme. Now, because he didn't really bat particularly quickly for large parts of the innings and showed, I think, typical risk-averse style against spin, it does put pressure on his teammates to hit, and that thing is probably one of the most difficult things to quantify when you're looking at impacts of an innings, and I think that's got to be considered a lot of the time as well.
Yeah, I did do some research into this. First of all, I do think it was a good innings. I think in the context of what RCB were up to, it was really the only shining light. I looked at the match impact data that Himanish does on his site, and you should go and find him on Twitter, Himanish Ganju, if you want to be able to do this yourself. And his impact model said that Kohli added 16 runs above an average player, which is a decent effort for a batter in an IPL game or in a T20 match. Incidentally, Sanju Samson added 20 runs and Josh Buttler added 27, so it was probably by those metrics the third best innings of the game, but it's still by miles the best thing that anyone on the RCB side actually did. When it comes to Kohli, and Ross, I think we'll throw this over to you, but I'll give you the numbers first. Like, he is 100% kind of selfish. He bats in a way that prioritizes his runs and his performance over other players. And this isn't me making this up. You can look at what he does each ball of an over and break it down and say, X% of the time he does this, X% of the time he hits a single, X% of the time he hits a 2, X% of the time he hits a 4. First ball of the over, Ross, I'll give you the 2 numbers that I think are most interesting. He hits a single 42% of the time off the first ball of an over, and he hits a 4 14% of the time. Last ball of the over, he's hitting a single 51% of the time, so 9% more, and a 4 only 9% of the time. So there's a huge increase in him wanting to keep the strike and a huge drop in him hitting 4s and 6s. Like, he barely ever hits a 6 off the last ball of the over. He's just thinking about the strike. And that, I'm afraid, kind of is selfish. And you can say, RCB's batting lineup isn't that good, blah, 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 blah. He spent most of his time in this innings and most of his time over the last 2 IPLs batting with Faf du Plessis and Glenn Maxwell. Like, if you actually look at who was at the other end, I know there are some bad players in this team, but, the guys he actually spends his time batting with aren't bad. That's a weird thing to do. And by the way, just for full context, Nobody else is really doing this. I had a look through it. I thought maybe KL Rahul would be doing it. No, Josh Buttler not doing it. The whole sample size as a whole, there isn't a tendency to hit singles off the last ball of an over. It's a really weird thing to do. Kohli is doing this on purpose. It is selfish, and I think they probably left runs out on the field in this game really obviously because of that.
Yeah, I think so. And I genuinely think that, I mean, we'll disagree on whether it was a good innings or not. I don't think it actually was a good innings, if I'm perfectly honest. Like you hit a century, great. But in the context...
got 113!
He's lost. He's lost. That's literally is it, right? That's what it comes down to at the end of the time. Like the whole reason RCB is such a bunch of losers is because of this mentality. Like, let's be fair. Like when it comes to this, they've got no trophy to show for it, right? They've got no trophy. And at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. And people say, oh, it's so unfair that Virat Kohli's never got the opportunity to lift the IPL. Well, he has. He's had the same opportunity as every other person. In fact, he's got even more of an opportunity, right? Because he's played pretty much every single game of the IPL that's ever existed. And on this occasion, it was selfish. Yes, RCB haven't got the best of teams. I think that's completely fair to say. But we have kind of ridiculed King Legend on this show for years now, because people would say and make excuses that, oh, he hasn't got the other people in the team, so he has to bat for ages and has to kind of go at a slow strike rate to make sure that they've actually got some runs to defend. On this occasion, I kind of thought Virat Kohli was kind of doing the same thing, and it became all about the personal milestone yet again, and we've seen that on more than one occasion. And yeah, it's brilliant that Virat Kohli hits a century. Yeah, it was great the other day that Dhoni kind of gave the fans something to cheer about, but that's not what the game's about. The game is about winning. It's not about these kind of deity individuals. It has to be around the team winning. RCB are likely to finish 9th or 10th this year. Virat Kohli can win the orange cap, and it's going to make no ounce of difference to that. And that's why I think that it's a real shame. I don't think Virat Kohli is ultimately the key point of blame in this, however. Like, Glenn Maxwell is completely devoid of any form. Cameron Green is a major acquisition for them and has really screwed their position when it came to the mini auction. And he's not doing anything either with the bat. Faf's doing kind of what he can, but Faf is over the hill kind of as a player now. Will Jacks should be playing in this team week in, week out, opening the batting. And I think ultimately it's the management of this men's franchise that has let them down. Their team is an absolute shambles at the moment. And to drop, I think it was some of the players that they dropped, like Anrich Nortje, etc., in this lineup, I just don't see some of the decision making loads of sense at the moment. And yeah, it's really, really poor from RCB.
That it wasn't poor from the Royals, so Josh Buttler back in form, 100, 9 fours, 4 sixes. Kohli, he moved clear of the pack, 8 centuries in the history of the IPL. Joss is now joint second, but has played 142 fewer IPL games than Kohli. Is this the beginning of the second act for Joss Buttler, do you reckon?
It's difficult to say, really. I think I wouldn't go overboard, but I'd say that it was a fantastic knock for sure, and definitely something to be positive about for Joss Buttler moving forward. I think that he's one of, 10 amazing batters in this comp, and that's probably, is he the best? Probably not. Is he one of the next best of the next tier? Yeah, probably. And look, and I think there's a Nakul Pandey who put this on Twitter. He picks his targets. He basically against, I think it was Topley and Siraj, he was pretty much a runner ball, and then against everyone else he just pummeled. That's what Buttler does, I think, better than pretty much any other batter in T20 cricket. He picks his targets, and there's plenty of targets given the RCB bowling. I mean, yeah, we can talk about Kohli. We can talk about whether that's a good innings or a bad innings, and whether he likes to keep the strike on the last ball of the over, which obviously statistically is pretty difficult to dispute. I'm sure a few people will probably try, but they spent 56 crore on 5 batters or 5 batting all-rounders, and spent 2 crore on spinners.
Can I talk about one of the spinners?
You can, but I want to carry on this diatribe. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no, I just want to say, Dagar, absolutely a target. The other target was Himanshu Sharma, bowled 2 overs over 29. They selected Himanshu Sharma despite him never having played a professional cricket match, based on an AI model that they'd come up with. Like, obviously, I don't know what the AI model was doing. It was called, like, they have a project called like interior scouting, and they'd come across this guy, and the AI model had said, Himanshu Sharma, he's going to be a great leg spinner. Let's bring him in. I think he bowled maybe 6 half trackers in his 12 balls, got pounded all around the ground. I think it's one of those occasions, Dan, when maybe some actual intelligence would have been useful just to vet what the artificial intelligence was coming up with there. But I'll let you get back to your diatribe now.
Well, do you know what? I actually didn't know that about him. Actually,
it's absolutely true.
I just didn't. I just knew that he'd never played a professional match, and he's almost 26. And please don't say that sort of stuff when I've got a drink in my mouth, because
Does he have a high release point?
Probably. I mean, it's based on this game alone. If you think that the AI model, looking at it as an AI model, is probably about as effective as the Horizon system with the post office over the last 20 years. But let's see. Let's not write off a player just yet. But look, they spent over 20 times the amount of money on 5 batters or batter all-rounders than they did on 4 spinners. Just figure that. They had Chahal, they had Hasaranga, and now they have a kid making his debut who's almost 26 they found from AI.
Yeah. And I think what's even more funny about that is they spent all this money on batters, and then they've got like their main batter working overtime to stop any of those other batters facing any balls. Like, it's just like, what are you doing, boys? Come on, like, think this through a little bit. Ross, do you want to talk about anything else from a Rajasthan point of view? And we saw their batting. I wouldn't say bail out the bowling, but their bowling wasn't as good as in this match, and we saw the other side of it, which is a good sign, right?
Yeah, well, again, it was kind of like one of those things where the bowling didn't have to be absolutely excellent on this occasion. Like RCB left loads of runs out there, in my opinion. Like, if you get to 180 and you're only 3 wickets down in T20 cricket, I think that's disgraceful, if I'm perfectly honest. You should be going hell for leather and kind of getting that score up to over 200. But because of that, Sanju Samson is in good nick. We said that Jaiswal Buttler were going to have to bang at some point, and it was Butler's turn to do that. And it was, I don't know, they seemingly untroubled. Like, watching it through, like a Rajasthan Royals fan, but it was kind of serene. Like, they weren't put under that much pressure, and you just saw what they were able to do. And they both struck a really good lick at the end, and it comes out quite a comfortable victory. And what I really like about this team is just like the celebrations when Jos Buttler got to that century. Like, Shimron Hetmeyer was kind of like overjoyed, like people like pouring onto the pitch. Like, it was, I don't know, Rajasthan at the moment is the team it's just one of those things. And they also looked the absolute business in that pink kit. It was brilliant. They need to play in that kit all the time. That shouldn't just be a one-off. That should be their kit. And I think it was fantastic. And this team, they're a real contender. So I'm for once very excited around supporting a team, because I'm a Spurs fan at the end of the day. So Spurs and Rajasthan Royals haven't lifted that many trophies either.
We're going to take a really quick break, then we're going to come back. We've got a question about the Champions League. The county championship is still going, and Ross, we're going to get an update from you on Sam Northeast, and then we're going to do a preview of the next 3 IPL matches. We'll be back in a second.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Cricket Podcast, where we're wrapping up this episode of IPL action. Ross, County Championship Corner, take it away. I want your best 30 seconds to a minute about what's going on, and we'll see whether Dan can mark Ross out of 10 for his update.
Well, Sam Northeast has broken Graham Gooch's record by hitting the most runs at Lords. quite the performance from Sam Northeast, who has now recorded over 500 runs in his last 2 first-class games, as he bookends kind of a century in the last game of last season and gets a monster triple century here. If you play for Glamorgan, you couldn't ask for a better start, really. And he gives himself every opportunity to hit more than 1,000 runs before the end of May. So that's not too shabby. And then I can't quite remember his name, which is quite bad, but it's like Kashif Ali, I think is his name.
Yeah.
And he's back-to-back centuries for Worcestershire to open up the season. And I think that is fantastic, right? And I think he's come through one of the South Asian community programs that was put in place, and is kind of the first person to kind of absolutely dominate. So fair play to that bloke. So the rest of the cricket, it's great that cricket is back. Like in England, it's still wet, it's still miserable, the wind is absolutely whipping across everything, it is still cold, and yet we are playing at the start of April. So I think it's fantastic that they're back. And there's some big names playing in it as well. If you're like a Dean Elgar fan, he's playing for Essex. So what's not to like?
Lyon?
Nathan Lyon. Nathan Lyon opened the bowling in April. Dan Lawrence took 4 for Surrey. Like Tom Hartley's playing. Shoaib Bashir didn't get picked. Somerset decided to pick 6 seamers instead of picking any spinner. Matt Parkinson rocked out and took his kind of wicket since moving to Kent, I believe, as well.
Did you see the first?
Yeah, lovely little flight delivery. So it's got nice to see Parky back, and it's all about confidence, right? When you're a kind of a leg spinner. So let's hope it's the first of many for this season. So it's been a positive start. The rain has obviously played a part as well, but the county championship is alive and kicking.
Good, Ross. That was an excellent county championship.
Really good.
Yeah, that was really good. The games are still going, so we'll get Ross to do that again on all future shows. Well done, Ross.
I'm taking credit for Parky's 25 that he got with the bat before he just run out of the non-strikers end. Because I was winding him up earlier in the week, telling him that he'd never scored over 100 runs in the season. He's just got a quarter of that in one game, so one innings. Yeah.
I love that the team analyst being like, "This is what you're no good at."
We were having a good laugh. It was good. Navni asked if Pujara's arrived. Yeah, he has arrived, but he wasn't 100% fit, I don't think, for the first game. I saw a picture of him sort of at the ground doing some fitness stuff, so I'm presuming he'll play in game 2. And I think one of the things that I've noticed in this round of county championship games, it's being played with a Kookaburra ball, which I think is important to mention because which basically doesn't do a great deal. And I'm not a massive buyer of this. We've got to play with a Kookaburra ball, but what it has shown is that usually, I mean, like years gone by, first of all, it's rained a lot in England over the last few months, and in years gone by, you'd see like teams like 50 for 5 after an hour on day one. I haven't seen the wickets at all. Like the Kookaburra bowlers just completely negated like the wicket taking. I mean, feel sorry for bowlers. Really, it can't have been fun for them, and we've seen some pretty ordinary figures from a lot of bowlers over this round of county championship games already.
But then that does kind of say, right, actually, what else have you got in the repertoire? And I think sometimes there are people who literally go, right, I'm going to turn up, I'm going to put it on the spot, and they'll make a good career out of it. And I think that is absolutely fine. But the whole point in playing with this Kookaburra ball is to try and get them to go, right, let's add a little bit more. Let's add a little bit more pace to this. Let's just try to learn a few new skills, right? It's my understanding from the Big Brains Trust.
Why is that important? Is my question. Because what I'm trying to say is that you as someone who recruits in county cricket, you recruit players based on anticipated conditions, and what works in domestic cricket is not the same as what works in Test cricket. And this then leads on to the question of what is the purpose of a county? Is it to, one, be a successful team on the pitch and sustainable financially off the pitch, or two, to be a feeder club for England? A lot of that time, that is mutually exclusive because what works in county cricket is not what works in international cricket. But no one ever knows the answer to this. No one's ever been willing to sort of put their head above the parapet and say, no, actually, no. They would just say both. But actually, no, you can't do both because they're not consistent with each other. So like they can do these Kookaburra games, but then you've got a load of bowlers who are probably fairly unable to have what they need to do with the Kookaburra ball to take a load of wickets. And generally the conditions aren't conducive to that either. We know that. I think we should just do what we're good at, is as English cricket, county cricket.
Moan.
Huh?
Moan.
Well, yeah, of course. But like we've got strengths. Why are we needing to change that just because of this obsession for winning away in Australia? Which you can do. You can change every rule under the sun. You can develop every player possible, but you're still going to be massive underdogs to do that, no matter what.
Right, we've got 5 minutes now after Championship Corner got out of control to do 3 things. Does anyone know the details about the Champions League? Dan, do you know the details about the Champions League? This is going to be quick.
Mixed messages, 8 or 16 teams should be the winner for each league, but let's see. I'm sure somehow some team who comes like 9th in the IPL gets to qualify for some legacy reason or reason that we don't know about. What I've laughed about so far is I've seen montages of like RCB and Melbourne Stars like advertising this Champions League. Good luck with that right now. They ain't even going to be in the Europa League. I don't know what's going to, what the criteria is, but I'm all for it. As long as the player, say like you've won 2 comps, you've got to play for your home team. There's no good about the IPL team going, oh, no, he's got to play for us, even though he's from the West Indies and he's just won the league with, I don't know, Guyana Amazon Warriors or something like that. If you got to play for your domestic team.
Yeah. Right, we've got 3 IPL games to get through as a preview. We're going to have 1 minute on each. Ross, Chennai Super Kings v Kolkata Knight Riders kicks off tomorrow. Who's going to win?
Well, KKR are in a brilliant vein of form, while CSK have spent the last couple of games kind of on a gap year. They're kind of gone and trying to find themselves again. Obviously, the furore around kind of Dhoni to Gaikwad has kind of dampened down a little bit. They've lost a couple of games on the bounce, and there's some soul searching going on for the Yellows. So I won't be surprised if they kind of roar back because they've got that piece. But KKR look the business at the moment. They are the team that are bringing people to watch, right? And the fact that they just keep on going and going and going with the intent with the bat is fantastic. And then their bowling unit is varied. It's got enough about it. So I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to say that KKR are going to continue their rich vein of form and beat CSK.
Okay, that's fair enough. Dan, you get to do not Mumbai Indians, Punjab Kings v Sunrisers Hyderabad. That's on Tuesday. Who's going to win?
I'll take CSK by the way in the first game because
okay, all right, yeah.
We'll just ruin the KKR train and table rules and all that sort of stuff. And CSK always overperform. Punjab against Sunrisers. I think that Sunrisers got too much for them with the hitting. I think that they're gonna make easy work with this Punjab bowling group unless Punjab make some changes with their plans. And I think Punjab could be staring at a 200 plus a scoreline to chase if Sunrisers bat first.
It's no problem for Punjab with 200 plus scoreline. Now that they've got the Shashank redemption in the middle order, a Punjab run for the playoffs is what this IPL needs. They're the outsider that we should all be backing here. For the record, though, I do think that it's got Heinrich Klaassen and runs written all over it this game. On Wednesday, we've got Rajasthan Royals v Gujarat Titans. Ross, Rajasthan going to go 5-0 to start the year.
If Gujarat keep on pissing about with the team they're selecting, then yes. But at the moment, I mean, if they pick the team they picked today, it's going to be an absolute bloodbath. But they need to hope that Neshra gets his thinking cap on and kind of goes, do you know what? We should just pick our best 11 again instead of doing whatever this. Like, it's almost like an experimental album. Like they had a really successful first album, right? They won the tournament. Second album, do you know what? Yeah, people really liked it. It wasn't quite as good as the first, but still it was good. And now they've gone to some like psychedelic weird album and they've got a lady in who's playing just the triangle and speaking in French. And it's just not really making sense. So I think that Gujarat are not in the best frame of mind at the moment. But if Killer Miller's back, that gives them the opportunity. And I also think that the spin bowling will give Rajasthan Royals a bit more of a challenge than some of the other teams have done so far. But I'm still going to back my pink boys to go 5-0 and 5-5.
Cool. Well, we're going to wrap up the cricket podcast there. If we finish it in the next 15 seconds, then it will be under an hour, and we're going to do that. So make sure you click like and subscribe. Follow us. What?
We're sponsored by Manscaped, Jack. We have to mention that we are sponsored by Manscaped. So how dare you potentially forget, because it is spring cleaning time, isn't it, Jack?
Yeah, it is. And you need to head over to manscaped.com. Use the code CricketPod for 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com to do your below the belt spring cleaning. We'll do the full read of that next time out as well. So don't miss out. We'll be back on Wednesday after those games. It's over an hour now, so we can just talk for as long as we want. Good work, boys. Thanks very much for listening. We will be back, as I said, on Wednesday.